Okay, you are going to be creating your basketball game in SketchUp before we go to make the wooden version in the production lab. To do this, you and your partner are going to be using SketchUp, which should be on your desktop, and it should say, look kind of like a little red box with white stairs. But you're going to go ahead and double click on it to open it up, or click on it to open it up. When it opens, the very first thing we're going to want to do is to save our drawing. Now, sometimes people don't close everything out. You may have to kind of close some stuff out. But we're going to go ahead and say File, Save As, and you're going to click on this PC. When you do, you're going to choose the Tech Drop. Inside the Tech Drop, you're going to find your class period, whichever one it might be. I'm going to choose period 1 for this demo. And you're going to see your rotation. I'm going to go ahead and choose rotation 4. And you're going to see there should be some file folders in here, and one is going to say SketchUp Basketball. So I go ahead and I click on that. So if I went back to look at my list, I went Tech Drop under this PC, period 1, rotation 4, and I'm currently in SketchUp Basketball. You would go to whatever rotation you are currently in though. You're then going to give it your first and last name of whoever is currently driving the mouse. So you're going to give it your first and last name of whoever is currently driving the mouse. Don't worry for the other partner. You're going to save one for them in a little bit. And you're going to go ahead and you're going to hit save. You're now ready to start your basketball game. And you're going to start by making the base. Now, there's a chance somebody might have gotten rid of one of these toolbars. So you have your standard toolbar up top, and you got the large toolbar off to the side. If someone did this and I move it back towards the middle, it will pop up. So if you would ever find this thing free floating, just move it back to the middle. Now, if it's not there, you're going to go to View, Toolbars, and you'll notice there should only be a check mark in Getting Started and Large Tool Set. If one is not checked, those tools disappear. So once again, the ones that should be checked are Getting Started and Large Tool Set. So if you're ever missing these, simply go ahead and go to View, Toolbars, make sure there's a check in Getting Started and Large Tools. Now, we're going to start with the rectangle command, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to type in 8.25, and you'll see it right down here where it's changing sizes. So you can see when I move my mouse, you have the dimensions. And if that is not there, let your instructor know and they'll help you make it so it's there. But you should see 8.25 being typed. You're then going to have 3.25. So I went 8.25 comma 3.25 and I hit enter. And it's going to make a rectangle. And I'm going to zoom down here using the scroll wheel on my mouse. I simply move my pencil over the top and I can zoom in on that piece. I'm then going to go ahead and I'm going to come over to the left and I'm going to choose the push-pull command. And I'm going to push and I'm going to click one time, and you can see I can stretch it up or down. And once again, down in the distance, I'm going to type 3/4 for 3/4 of an inch, and I'm going to hit enter or return. Now, your basketball game is going to have rounded edges. To do this, I need to draw some lines, and then I got to draw some curves. So I'm going to zoom in on it and kind of move it around a bit so I can see the top, so I can see both sides, and if I need to, I can grab the hand and I can move it that way. I can go back to my arrow, and then I can use my scroll wheel to go in and out, or I could use the orbit or the zoom, and I would simply pan in and out. Now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab the pencil or line command, and from this corner, I'm going to draw on edge. Notice how it says on edge. That is important. It must say on edge. And I'm going to go 3/8 of an inch over, and I'm going to hit enter. So once again, my length at the bottom right says 3/8. I hit enter. You'll notice there's a little endpoint now right there. I'm going to come back to that corner, and now notice it says on edge 3/8 of an inch. It remembers the last command you did. So I'm going to hit enter, and I now have a little dot right there at that endpoint. I'm going to do that from each corner. So I go 3/8 over on edge, 3/8 down on edge. Now notice it's not giving me 3/8, but it's telling me it's 3/8 down in the corner. It's showing me that it's the same distance. That's why it has that little dashed line on the other side. I do the same thing from the bottom on edge 3/8. Once again, it's telling me that there's a line over there that it lines up with. So I click on it, come down, 3/8 on the edge, 3/8 of an inch up, and I click. Now, once I have those lines drawn, I'm going to come over to the toolbar, and you're going to see it says 2-point arc. And I'm going to click on this, and it says 2 points, which means I'm going to go from endpoint over to the other endpoint. Now, I can move this out and in. I want to zoom in, though, on this corner, and I want to stop where it says tangent at vertex. So it says tangent at vertex, and I click. So I might have to zoom in on the other corner, do the same thing, endpoint, endpoint, it's already on tangent on vertex. So I click, do the same thing on the other corner, go to tangent on vertex, and I click. The key here is that it says tangent on vertex. Now, once I get all those drawn, I'm going to use what is called push-pull over here. And once again, I'm going to use the scroll wheel to kind of zoom in and zoom out on corners, but I'm going to push-pull, clicking and holding on my mouse, till it says on edge, and I'm going to let go. I'm going to come over to the other corner. I'm going to click one time on here. I'm going to scroll down till it says on edge or endpoint, and I'm going to let go. Now, if I hold the mouse wheel, it will let me pan or orbit. I'm going to come over to the other side. I'm going to push down, and I'm going to go to the endpoint, getting rid of that corner, making it round. Now, I now have my base drawn in nice and round. We have to create another piece to go on here that we call the springboard holder. To do that, I'm going to click on the rectangle. And I'm going to come out here and I'm going to draw a rectangle. And this time, I'm going to type the distance 1.75, comma, 1.375. And I'm going to hit enter. And it's going to make a little rectangle. I'm then going to take this rectangle and I'm going to push-pull it up 3/4 of an inch. So you notice, once again, it can go as tall as I want, but I type in 3/4 for 3/4, and I hit enter, and it makes it 3/4 of an inch. Notice I drew that a good ways away from my base. We now have to put in an angled cut where your springboard is going to go. To do that, we're going to come over here to this right side, and we're going to grab the pencil or the line command, and we're going to go to midpoint. And you'll notice when I'm on here, I got midpoint, endpoint. I want the midpoint, and then I want it to be on the face, but I also want that line to be red. Notice how it's green there, it's black there. I want that line to be on face and red. I'm then going to go ahead and I am going to type in 3/8 or 3/8 of an inch. It's going to make that line on there. Now I want to come straight down on the blue axis. Notice how I move down here, it says on blue axis, and that's why the line is blue. So when the line's blue down to the edge, I'm going to go ahead and click. Now, we're going to draw some angles on here. To do that, we're going to use a protractor. It measures angles and creates guides, as it says. So we want to have some guides for our lines. We're going to click on the protractor. We're going to go into the endpoint. Notice how the protractor is green. That is important. If yours is not, check with your instructor. They can help see where you got messed up. But I click one time on the endpoint. It's going to give me this little dashed line on the red face, on the face and a red line. I'm going to click again. Notice it now gives me this angle, and it says angle down here on the bottom right corner. So right down here I got the angle. You're going to type in 15 degrees. You're going to go ahead and you're going to do the same thing from the midpoint of this line. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on midpoint, come over on the red, then I'm going to go down at 15 degrees, 15, and hit enter. I need to make one more from that midpoint or intersection now. I'm going to go ahead and come on the red. This time I'm going to go up and I'm going to type 75. So I have these hash marks in here that are my guides. I'm going to use these to help me draw. So I'm going to go from intersection out to the edge or intersection. I'm going to go down that angle. Then I'm going to go down that intersection, making those solid lines rather than dashed. I'm now going to go ahead and get the eraser command, and I'm going to erase the dashed lines, getting rid of them. I'm then going to erase those lines that I used to help me find my location. Now, to cut this, we're going to use the push-pull command. And we're going to simply take this straight across to the other edge, and it's going to cut out a little notch. Now, this springboard holder goes on the back side of our base. So I have to come in here and I need to select it. Notice how I'm just grabbing it. I'm not getting any of this, so I shouldn't see any of this highlighted blue. So once again, I turn that. I have my dashes. I grab what I want to move. I'm then going to say move from midpoint to the midpoint over here. So I've centered it on that base. So we're now starting to look like our basketball game. We got the base drawn, we got the springboard drawn. We now need to draw a pole coming out of here, and we got to draw a backboard. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to grab the pencil or line command. I'm going to go to the midpoint of the top of the springboard, and I'm going to come over on the red, on the face, but notice it's on the red line, so the line should be red. I'm going to type in I'm going to type in half an inch, 0.5. I'm going to type in 0.5 or half an inch. I'm then going to grab the circle command. Now, sometimes you might go to draw the circle and it might look like a triangle. Mine looks like a circle right now. But let's say it looks like this, and it looks like a triangle. If this ever happens to you, notice down here how it says sides. Triangles have how many sides? 3. So if it's wrong, come down here, right, when I click on the circle command, where it says sides, type in 24 right away, and hit enter, and it's going to turn it into a circle. I'm then going to go ahead, and I'm going to type in 3/16 or 3/16 of an inch for the radius to make a 3/8 of an inch dowel. Once I've drawn that circle, I'm going to come in and I'm going to erase this line right here, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to leave this line on, and I'm going to have the line command real quick, and I'm going to draw this line the rest of the way across on the red. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to push pull 2 halves up. So I'm going to go up on this half, and I'm going to type in 6.5, and I hit enter. I'm then going to come over to this half, and I'm going to go up either till it says endpoint, or I would type in 6.5 once again. We have this line coming through, and it's okay that we do. When we paint it, it won't be very noticeable, but we need this line up here, and it's just a lot easier to have this with 2 halves, okay? But so once again, I have a basketball game, I got a pole, I need the backboard. For the backboard, I'm going to zoom around so that I'm looking at it from what would be the front of the basketball game. I'm then going to go ahead and I'm going to grab the rectangle, and down here, I'm going to type, after I click once, I'm going to type 3/4 of an inch, so 3/4, comma, 3.5, and I'm going to hit enter. I now need to push-pull my backboard up. And this time it's going to go up 3.25, and I'm going to hit enter. Now, just like I did with my base, I need to round the corners. Once again, I'm going to go 3/8 of an inch. So I'm going to zoom into my backboard so I see it a little better. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw over 3/8 of an inch. So I'm going to type in 3/8, enter. Come back to that corner, go up. It should default to 3/8 once again. Come down 3/8. Come over on edge 3/8. On edge 3/8. Down on edge 3/8. Up 3/8. And over 3/8. I then once again am going to go ahead and get the 2-point arc. And I'm going to go endpoint, endpoint, and remember I go to tangent at vertex. Endpoint, endpoint, tangent at vertex, endpoint, endpoint, tangent at vertex, endpoint, endpoint, tangent at vertex. I then may have to kind of zoom around a bit. I'm going to grab my push-pull. I'm going to push down until it says offset limit or edge. I'm going to do that all the way around my backboard. Now, one thing we have to put on your backboard is a rim. To do that, we need to draw a rim on there. And to do this, we're going to come to the front of your backboard and we're going to go down to where it says midpoint. And we're going to go up what would be 3/8 of an inch. We're then going to go over on the backboard 5/8 of an inch. Now, this is important and it's kind of a tricky part. I need to grab the line and I'm going to come back to this corner right here. And I want to come out on the red axis. It is very important that you come out on the red axis. I'm then going to type in 2 for 2 inches and I'm going to hit enter. We're then going to grab the circle and we're going to go to midpoint. When I get to the midpoint, I'm going to drag and bring it till it says endpoint on that line that we drew of 5/8 of an inch. Okay, so I went endpoint from midpoint to endpoint and I draw a circle. Now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get rid of this line right here. You can also erase this line back here. If I want, I could zoom down or rotate down. So I just see a circle. Now we still need to make this a rim. To do that, we're going to click on this button that says offset. And we're going to click inside the circle and we're going to say offset 1/16 or 1/16 of an inch. We're then going to go ahead and right click on this, where see how it's all dashed? I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to say erase. Now our rim needs some thickness to it yet, so we're going to click push pull and we might have to zoom in a little bit. And we're going to move it up 1/16 of an inch. Now we got a nice rim on our backboard, but we need to be able to move it from here to the top of our pole. To do that, we need a midpoint line down here. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to draw a line from midpoint straight down the red to midpoint. Now, I still need a way that I can snap that right up on here on the midpoint of this line to the midpoint of this line. Now, one of the ways to make this easier is just let's draw a circle on it. So we're going to come in and we're going to draw our circle at 3/16 of an inch. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to erase the lines that are on the other side of the circle. So we now have this circle here that we're going to take and we're going to line up with this circle and line right here on the top. So to do that, we need to do something to our basketball game and we need to turn it into an X-ray. To do that, we're going to come up to view and we're going to go to face style and we're going to choose X-ray. So I'm going to go to X-ray, and you'll notice now I can see through everything, right? Once again, I want to move just this part. So I'm going to grab my arrow. I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to grab just the backboard and rim. I'm going to say move. And I'm going to choose this endpoint right here on that line that's going through the circle. I'm then going to scroll out, move up, and you have to kind of go up on, and I'm going to grab that endpoint. See how those circles line up? Because I have that endpoint tied in there, and I'm going to go ahead and click on that endpoint. Once I've moved it, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say view, face style, and I'm going to uncheck X-ray. Now I have this nice, pretty basketball game. It's almost ready for you and your partner to put your pictures on it, but there's a few more things we need to do on this. Now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go camera, zoom extents, right? I have my basketball game. I got my backboard, I got my rim. There's still a piece missing. I need a springboard. So there's one more piece that I need to draw and move on to this piece. To do that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to choose rectangle, and once again off to the side of our basketball game we're going to draw a rectangle, and this time we're going to type in 7, 1.375, and we're going to hit enter. We now have this rectangle that's sitting down here that's going to end up being our springboard. Our springboard, we're going to push poles, once again push pole. This time we're going to go up 1/8 of an inch, and we're going to hit enter. Now, we need to draw a hole in this springboard. So to do that, I'm going to zoom in over here, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to choose the line command, and I'm going to go from the midpoint straight back on the red and saying on face. I'm going to go back what will end up being 1/2 inch. Yes. Let me make sure on that. I'm going to go back 1/2 inch. Sorry. So I got the midpoint, and I'm going to end up going back 3/4 of an inch. And I'm going to hit enter. I'm then going to choose the circle. And this time, I'm going to draw a circle that is 5/16. And I'm going to hit enter. I'm then going to erase the line that I drew out there. I'm then going to push pull the center of that circle down till it says on edge, making a hole cut out inside that springboard. Now, I once again have to round these edges, but this time, I'm not going to go 3/8. I'm going to go 1/2 inch. So I'm going to go 0.5 and hit enter. I then am going to come across, and it should say 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, and 1/2 inch. On edge, once again, make sure it says on edge. I'm then going to go endpoint to endpoint, and the key thing once again is it's tangent at vertex. So I go endpoint, endpoint, tangent at vertex. I then push pull down till it says on edge down here. Push pull till it says on edge, and I've cut out those edges. There's a problem though. This springboard has to fit in that angle, which means once again we have to rotate or turn this. This time we're going to go ahead and select the whole thing, so I have all of it selected. Nothing over here is blue, just the springboard. Now, rather than protractor, we're going to use rotate. And just like the protractor, it's going to be green on that endpoint. Come across to red, so it's on the red axis. I click one time. Now I'm going to drag down till it says 15 or type in 15 and hit enter. Now it's almost ready to go, but first we have to move this springboard from this point. So I'm going to go ahead and click on move. I'm going to click on endpoint, and I'm going to take it right up here to this endpoint. Now I know there's a gap, right? In reality, your piece is going to be bigger than that gap as well, and we fill that with hot glue. But I come in here and I select endpoint, and my springboard fits in there nice and neatly right inside my basketball game. Now, when you get to this point, you are going to go ahead and you are going to save one copy for you, one copy for your partner. So you already have one that's saved as one person's first and last name. So you're going to go ahead and you're going to simply go ahead and say File, Save As. It's already in that SketchUp basketball folder. Now you're going to save it as other person. So that's whoever else is helping you with it, your partner's first and last name. So we're going to save it as our partner's first and last name. And I hit Save. Now I'm going to go ahead and go to the File folder. I'm going to go to Tech Drop, Period 1, or whichever period you're in, whichever rotation you're in, SketchUp Basketball. I have first and last name, I have partner's first and last name. I'm going to open up the other one. I'm going to choose SketchUp, hit OK. I now should end up with two files open. Right here, so I have first and last name, and I got my partner's first and last name. But they're two basketball games. So whoever's currently running the mouse is going to work on finishing their basketball game. And then you will trade, and you'll have the other person finish. And just like before, we were taking turns drawing, now you're going to take turns finishing your basketball games. Now there's two things we have to do. The first thing we want to do is paint this basketball game. Now, when you go to paint it, you're going to go ahead and you're going to choose wood. And you have what looks like OSB. We got our wood lumber. Let's see, we want the floor light, right? The two colors of stain we have are kind of this color, and we got kind of this color. So you're going to choose, if you want it to be a little darker, this one, right? So you got kind of a darker green. We have two choices of stain. We got a color that looks similar to this wood lumber, and we got one similar to the wood floor. You're going to choose, and this is why we decided to have you save it, right? Because one partner might want a dark one partner might want a light one. But you're going to go ahead and you're going to zoom all around your basketball game, paint everything but the springboard and the rim. So I come in, paint the backboard, paint the springboard holder, paint the sides, paint the edges. Sometimes you might have to kind of zoom in, zoom around, zoom way in to get some of this stuff painted. All right, so I zoom around, looks like I got the bottom, got the top of the springboard. I then come up, get the rest of the rim, and sometimes you might want to go camera, zoom extents, paint, 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 paint. And then double check to make sure I didn't miss anything. Now we need to paint the springboard and the rim. For the rim, we're going to go to metal. And your rim is pretty close to this metal rusted color. So we're going to come in, paint the top, paint the bottom, paint the edge, and then paint the inside. But so I now have a rim all painted. Next thing I need is my springboard. For right now, we're just going to go ahead and paint yours. Go to colored name. And we're going to scroll down and we're going to make everybody's springboard lime green. It doesn't mean that's the color yours is going to be, but that's the color we're going to paint them. There we go, lime green. Once again, I go around making sure I got the whole thing painted, top, bottom, side, edges, everything. Once I have it all painted, I'm now ready where I could go ahead and I could simply say close on that. I'd go File, Save, just to make sure I got mine saved. I then could go over to my partners, and my partner could decide they're going to paint theirs. And this time, they go to wood, and they decide they want theirs to be the darker colored one. So they come in, they paint the whole thing just like you did. But like I said, you can do the light color, you can do the dark color. I'm just showing you these because these are the two colors that we have available for you to use for stain. They're pretty close to what you see in these pictures. And that way you can decide what do you like on yours. But so I come in here, once again, go back up top, make sure I got my backboard all painted. Double check to make sure I didn't miss any parts. And I got my backboard painted. I would go ahead, choose my metal, go to the brass, zoom in on my rim, click on the parts I want to paint, go to colored named, lime green, come on. Come down, paint my backboard or my springboard. Now, once I get my springboard painted, my partner and I would go ahead and hit save on mine. Once I hit save on mine, once I hit save on mine, I would go ahead and I would work on putting a picture on my backboard. Now, there's going to be a second video that shows you how to grab your picture. Actually, to grab your picture, you're going to go ahead and you're going to come into Microsoft Edge. Now, some of you might decide you want to do, a sports team, whatever else. I'm going to show you when it comes to getting your picture ready for your basketball game. You're also going to end up using it for a Word document eventually. And to do that, you're going to want to choose a correct picture. So if I'm looking at a picture, let's say I wanted to do SpongeBob. Actually, I'm going to use SpongeBob as an example, and then I'm going to choose a different one here. But if I go to SpongeBob, and I go to images, right? This is a good picture of SpongeBob. Good picture, bad picture. It'd be an okay picture. I probably want to use it. Bad, good, good, bad, 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 good. Okay. What makes a good picture? You're going to see, right? When I'm looking at these SpongeBob ones, if I do the same thing with like LeBron James, like a LeBron James logo, and I go to images, bad, 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 good, good, bad, good, bad, right? I have bad, 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 good. We don't want to waste a lot of black ink in the printer. And we also don't want to have to worry about it. Doesn't mean you can't color it on your backboard, but we want to print a picture that has a white background. Okay, so when I'm looking at these pictures and I say some are good, some are bad, I want a white background, okay? So when I go to do this white background, I want to choose one. If you can't find one, absolutely looking through all the pictures, let your instructor know. They'll help you try to make one where it has less of a dark background to it. For my picture though, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go to Liberty Middle School, Papillion, Nebraska. And I'm going to look for images, see if we got an image up. Actually, I'm going to go to the web. And I'm going to go to PLC Schools, Contact Liberty. Now, we have our nice eagle right here. I'm going to go ahead and use the eagle for mine. And so what that means is if I find this picture, right, I can go save picture as. And I'm going to choose the tech drop, whatever class period I'm in, whatever rotation I'm in, and there's this folder that says basketball pictures. I'm going to choose it. Now, I'm going to go ahead and just rename this Liberty Eagle. Now when I do this, your file must be a bitmap, must be a JPEG, PNG should work, right? But you want it to be one of those. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save, and I now have my picture. I then would go back to my SketchUp drawing, so I'm the first and last name, and I want to put my eagle right here on the backboard. To do that, I'm going to go File, Import. I'm then going to go to this PC to where I saved that picture, Tech Drop. I'm going to go to the period that I saved it in, the rotation I saved it in, and the folder I saved it in, and I should have a folder. Now notice it says down here, all supported image types. That's important. Notice when I talked about it, it says JPEG, PNG, right? Bitmap. Sometimes your file might save as what's called a GIF. That will not show up here, notice. So if your file's not showing up and you've saved it, make sure it says all supported image types, and then make sure you saved it as a PNG, a bitmap, or a JPEG. Now I'm going to hit open, and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to put it on my backboard. So I'm going to click over here, then I'm going to drag it over. Now I need to resize it. So before I click anything else, notice it's blue. Before I click anything else, I'm going to click on scale. And when I do, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring the scale down to the edge. Now I might want it sitting above the rim. Maybe I want it to go down under the rim. But I can choose, do I want it a little higher than the rim? Do I want it going down below the rim? You make the call. So I'm going to put mine down all the way down there. I can go ahead and once again move it right to that edge. Move it right to that edge, but I now have my picture taking up the whole thing. I then would go ahead and click off to the side. And I now have my picture sitting on my basketball game. I can go camera zoom extents and I can see what it looks like. Now I want to kind of get on this angle right here. This is almost ready to print. But what I have to do first is I dimension it. Okay? So when I go to dimension it, I'm going to come down here to endpoint. See if I can get it on there. Endpoint to endpoint. And then it should say 3 1/4. If it doesn't, you might not be on the right endpoint. Double check you're on the right spot. If it's off by a little bit, just simply dimension it. Okay, it won't hurt your grade that much. I then go down here and I go endpoint on the edge, or midpoint to midpoint, might be easier. And I move it up. I do the same thing down here, midpoint. All right, I can go endpoint, I bring it down, it's 3 1/4 off the front. I then go endpoint, endpoint. Should be 8 1/4, there we go. I then just make sure that I drew this side correct. I'm going to come up and I'm going to go 3/4 of an inch out. All right, so I can see it's 3/4, 8 1/4, 3/4, 3/4, 3 1/2. Now, last thing I need to do is click on the dowel after I choose text. And over here, I'm going to click once and I'm going to type in my first, last name, hit enter, and then I'm going to type in whatever period I am in. So period number, I have question mark because it might be whatever period you're in. I'm then going to go ahead, hit enter. So I have first and last name, period number, question mark. I did camera zoom extent so I see everything, right? So it's nice and centered. I then go file print. And I'm going to make sure it says LMS Tech Lab right here. And if it does, I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to go ahead and print my basketball game and turn it into my instructor. And then my partner would do the same. All right, so my partner would go ahead and you would help your partner with getting their picture on and getting theirs dimensioned. Then you're going to turn them into your instructor. When both you and your partner have yours done,